Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Damage Report as we greet a logo that's persistent over my face and a president that's now mobile and is totally healed and feeling good and everything's back to normal and we're not living out a weird version of The Walking Dead at all. So we're going to cover the news, of which there's a lot, including the president's, emergence from Walter Reed, his return to the White House to spread the virus there. Very exciting. We've got a lot of other news too, but most importantly of all, we have Jordan Uhl. How's it going, Jordan?
John, it's going all right. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you here. I know over the weekend you were doing a sort of fundraising effort, right?
Not a fundraiser. I'm working on a fundraiser that hasn't been announced yet, but did do an Among Us stream with Move On with a bunch of different progressive partners and
Oh,
allies.
I thought that was a fundraiser. I apologize.
No, just Move On's getting into
Okay.
Twitch.
That's fun. That's awesome. And I know that game has absolutely exploded. It's the latest thing in a long list of things that I'm just missing that's out there and everybody's having fun with. I need to figure out what's going on with that. But anyway, we're very excited to have you here. You chose a good day to be on the show because there's a lot of wild news out there. I don't know if you've been on Twitter lately, but there's a lot going on.
I go on there
Anyway,
sometimes.
you do every once in a while. I've seen. So if you're watching this right now, whether you're on YouTube or Twitch or literally anywhere, you're gonna want to hit that like button, or maybe there's a heart, or there's bits or something. There's a lot of stuff. I don't know. But anyway, you're gonna want people to know that we're active because it's gonna be pretty wild. And if you send us in messages, chats and tweets and super chats and things like that, we will be responding as we go. But with that said, there's so much to get to. So, Jordan, why don't we jump right into it? Donald Trump was not going to stay at Walter Reed any longer than necessary, or even as long as necessary. And so, as was alluded to over the weekend, and as we talked about on the show yesterday, he did leave. And he returned to the White House, where he decided to have his first action back in the White House be very emblematic of his overall approach to the pandemic that continues to grip our nation. Take a look.
Ladies, come back there. Ma'am?
Okay, so we're gonna have a little bit of a zoom in on a few seconds of that video, but Jordan, so he returned to the White House and immediately took his mask off. First thing he did as president once again. What do you think?
It's hard to really encapsulate just how reckless like him and his team and his supporters are being in this moment. Like this is a virus that has killed over 1 million people worldwide. It's killed 200,000 plus in the States. Millions of people have had it, and if just like I do, people who have had this, it's miserable, and we've seen how contagious it is. That this was, it seems like we can get into this, but it seems like a rushed exit from Walter Reed and taking the mask off, and then again, like supporters, which I think we'll get into later, turning this into like the next step in that like mask culture war, just shows like they don't care. They really do not care.
No, they really don't seem to, or at the very least, he doesn't. I'm sure there's somebody, hypothetically, that wants Trump to do what is good for him, whether in terms of his health, in terms of his prospects of re-election. But Trump is going to be Trump, so he's not going to listen to any of that. But really fast, let's talk about the mask going off. Because the president at that point was near an official photographer, and other staffers could be seen behind him. He didn't put his mask back on as he turned to walk back into the White House. So, look, if he just wanted to walk up those stairs and then take his mask off to weirdly look out at the crowd, okay, I get it. This is supposed to reassure his fans that he's still alive and his face hasn't melted off, Indiana Jones style. But then once you go back into the White House, put your mask back on. But he didn't do that. And if you take a look at this photo, which is from a higher vantage point, you can see he is walking into a room with people in it, as he is shedding coronavirus freely into the air around him. He is not totally cured. There hasn't been enough time for that. This isn't like it's unsafe for anyone to not have a mask on, or it's even more unsafe because you were around someone that might have had it and maybe you haven't. No, we know he has coronavirus right then, and he's walking to the White House with a mask off to just shed it into the air for those people. I just don't. I know that we're lefties, so like bleeding hearts. We don't want to kill people. We're so weak in that respect. But I don't understand a person like those aren't his political enemies. It's not like Adam Schiff is in there, or like Kellyanne Conway's husband, or like the Lincoln Project guys. Those are his fans that have stuck with him to this point that still work for him, and he's doing what he can to kill them.
Right. I saw a story last night about how housekeeping staff are starting to contract it in the White House now because of this kind of like disregard for human life that he and his staff have demonstrated. And we saw this kind of play out in the debate when he took a shot at Hunter Biden for his history with drug abuse. And Hunter's much more privileged than the average drug user, less likely to face any real like substantive consequences than someone who grew up in like the Rust Belt, who got addicted to heroin, stuff like that. Like, but the fact that he like thought that on national TV during the debate was the time to attack this guy for his own shortcomings was just another instance of that. We're seeing, so like, for whether it's attacking someone's kid for mistakes that they've made, or now infecting staff in the White House around him or on his campaign team, and just taking off a mask, knowing deep down he has to know he still has this. It's just a complete and total disregard for human life. It's just absolutely callous.
It just totally is. And, I would say this is one of the lives he's risking that I care the least about, but it's also a risk to his own life. Just hours before what you saw in that video, White House physician Sean Conley said Trump, quote, may not be entirely out of the woods yet with the virus. The president is still infected and will continue to receive treatment at the White House. He just doesn't want to do it at Walter Reed because I guess he thinks it makes him look weak. And if you're a right-wing male, there's literally nothing you fear more than someone thinking you're weak, even if your lifelong quest to avoid that appearance makes you constantly weak. But that's a longer conversation we don't have time to get into. Now, White House aides have advised President Trump to avoid the Oval Office while he's still infected. We'll see if he respects that. But they're making arrangements for him to work out of the diplomatic reception room and use it as a backdrop for future televised remarks, according to two White House officials. Now, one of those White House officials told Axios, it's insane that he would return to the White House and jeopardize his staff's health when we are still learning of new cases among senior staff. This place is a cesspool. And they go on to say he was so concerned with preventing embarrassing stories that he exposed thousands of his own staff and supporters to a deadly virus. He has kept us in the dark, and now our spouses and kids have to pay the price. It's just selfish. So, look, my gut reaction is, why are you still saying all this stuff off the record? But the thing is, we saw that that Pence aide come out and give all this information about what was happening in the White House, and it's not like going on the record makes his followers care anymore. But Jordan, this is what people who actually work there are saying. Like, they're shocked that he is willing to do this and to infect, as you said, not just the politicos in the White House, but the people who are just working there, the staff.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't believe. Here I am, like, still somehow shocked that like this is what it's reached. That they all know that this could get people killed around them. They can get people sick. If they don't have, or those people in the staff, like maybe in housekeeping, don't have, their family members don't have health insurance, people around them don't have health insurance, they could risk like bankruptcy. This is extremely dangerous, and he is using this as a campaign prop because he wants to be seen, like you said, as this kind of alpha male. He doesn't want to be seen as weak or inferior. It's really close to the election, so he wants to make sure like people aren't worried about his his vitality or election prospects.
Yeah. And
the end result is he's putting people's lives on the line. That is so unbelievably callous.
100%. And it's Trump is obviously putting at risk the lives of everyone around him. But let's focus just briefly on the fact that he's probably also endangering his own life too. So he spent a few days at Walter Reed, and he received arguably the best care one could get. It seems like in some ways he got the doctors to give him things that he probably shouldn't have. But so what condition is he in though? Because now he's left. He doesn't want to be there anymore. He's left. So many people noticed that in that video last night, he didn't necessarily look like he was totally cured. Take a look at this. So, we can play that as B-roll, but Jordan, that was going around, and a lot of people are saying that doesn't look like a person who is breathing totally unencumbered and just totally happy to be, processing oxygen. That doesn't seem like that.
Right, and this is a virus that could cause permanent lung damage to someone that it infects. I've got a buddy who had it in March, and he's been telling me a lot about his experience with it because he had it for around 20 days. And he said the first few days you kind of feel sick, you kind of feel all right, but it kind of ebbs and flows from then on. And we saw the path with Herman Cain. They thought he was on the mend about a week, 10 days into it, and then ultimately his fate took a turn for the worse. Again, my buddy said that kind of breathing thing resembles what he had experienced. Even 15 days in, he thought he was feeling better, went for a short bike ride, and thought he was gonna his lungs were going to explode because he couldn't breathe. This is kind of par for the course for what people who've had it say it's like. And this again, this is the onset. This is the beginning. This is not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, it doesn't look at it. I mean, look, I've said, every day that we've had a show since he was infected, I have said that I am sure for a number of reasons that he's going to be just fine. He is definitely receiving whatever humanity has to keep a 74-year-old man with comorbidities alive during this. He is going to get it. He is going to get it earlier than anyone else would get it. He's going to get it for free. I have a feeling he is going to be just fine. When I say just fine, I mean that he'll be alive. Whether he is setting himself up for lifelong lung or other organ damage, I don't know. But I was reading, I think it was Dr. Syed was saying that one of the things you look for in terms of evaluating someone's recovery here, in terms of the breathing, is the involvement of these muscles. How much are you having to sort of do that to aid in the breathing process? And you can see that in that video. He appears to be wincing, but he wanted to go home. He wanted to go home and show how happy. You can see that. Look at that pained. And I'm not I know some conservative watching this is gonna be like, why are they taking pleasure? I'm not taking pleasure in this. This is a bad, stupid idea. It's a stupid idea that seems to be done because of either his bizarre personality weaknesses or a belief that it'll help him in the election. And I don't even think that that's true. This whole thing is just. It's sad. Initially, I know there were the memes and there were gifs. That was very funny. But it's just getting sad. This isn't good for anyone, and lives are on the line. His, and more importantly, other people around him.
Yeah. This.
No.
Yeah. Just briefly, it just the response from his supporters and lackeys was really alarming too. His campaign put out a GIF or a meme of him. His head had been motion tracked onto a football player, and he was hurtling over COVID. You saw the tweets from Kelly Loeffler saying Trump beat COVID, and leaning into this kind of he beat it, he toughened it, he was tougher than it, that kind of stuff. That rhetoric, I gotta imagine is going to backfire with most people, because people around us who have gotten sick or died from it, it's no fault of their own. It wasn't that they weren't tough enough. It's that this is really dangerous. And leaning into this kind of hyper masculine, tougher than the virus rhetoric is so short-sighted.
Yeah, I would say hyper fake masculine, but I agree. And we're gonna get exactly what you're saying there. We're gonna get out of Trump's mouth, and a little bit later on, we're gonna check in on Fox News and see how they're dealing with all of this. But before we do that, I just want to read a few super chats before we move on. With the first today being from Tony Forster, who says a fake account on Twitter says they want to nominate Tucker for debate moderator. I'm not worried about that happening. I don't think that's going to happen. There's a lot of pundits I don't want to be a moderator. I don't think they're going to agree to Tucker Carlson. Leslie says, "Dearest Dragon Daddy, I hope your throat feels better today. Maybe you were breathing too much fire." Thank you. My throat is feeling a little bit better. No, so in a country filled with people who have very good reasons to have like very good explanations for their throats to be sore, I feel bad that my throat is probably sore because I spent all weekend talking during an online board game. So thank you for your sympathy, but it's probably not earned in this case. Anyway, Jake Anderson says, "Congrats on the 500,000 subs. Love the show. Thank you." Yeah, we haven't. We're going to tweet about that a little bit later on, but we did reach 500,000 yesterday. Very happy about that. It feels simultaneously like we started this channel 50 years ago and 2 weeks ago. Extreme Gaming says, "Weekend at Donnie's. Yikes." Yeah. Chakuseki says, "Trump's balcony propaganda shot reminded me of a Michael Bay movie trailer, just without Megan Fox or Optimus Prime. Yikes." Yeah. And Franklin Sharpslicer says, "I still think and I have the notion you should regularly show Brett's lion potion, plus a Ferengi rule now and then, so we'll be up to speed. Think about it, my anchor friend." Thank you. We do need it. When we start doing ads at some point again, we'll do Brett's lion potion. And let's see, we just got a very large super chat from Isabel Amelia Thompson, who says, "Thanks y'all for bringing the unfiltered news. If it makes y'all feel a little bit better, I'm livid as a veteran at this particular con man in chief and his lack of interest in protecting Americans. Subsequently, might be going back into the service to protect Americans." Well, thank you for obviously all of that, but also for sending this super chat. We really do appreciate that. Yeah, I can't imagine imagine being a vet who actually cares about the country and seeing what Donald Trump is doing, seeing the number of American dead, piling up, how much they do to try to stop us from dying as a result of the actions of foreign countries and things like that. And our country just decides to surrender and let hundreds of thousands of people die. Anyway, with that, why don't we move into a few of the scarier parts of last night? So we're going to proceed with some more of these videos. Donald Trump's return to the White House, where he took off his mask and all of that, seems to have been designed to produce a few videos of a fairly obvious propagandistic style. The first was a direct address to the country. And in this, I think he's always been irresponsible when it comes to the pandemic, but this might be the worst he's ever been in that regard. Here is the first bit of what he had to say.
"I just left Walter Reed Medical Center, and it's really something very special. The doctors, the nurses, the first responders, and I learned so much about coronavirus. And one thing that's for certain, don't let it dominate you. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to beat it. We have the best medical equipment. We have the best medicines, all developed recently. And you're going to beat it." I didn't feel so good. And 2 days ago, I could have left 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I felt great, better than I have in a long time. I said just recently, better than 20 years ago. Don't let it dominate. Don't let it take over your life.
Okay, so there's going to be more, unfortunately. But Jordan, what do you think? This is what he's learned. He's an expert now.
Yeah, the suggestion that he's somehow immune to it is just absolutely bizarre. And reckless. To reiterate on our conversation earlier, that's just it's ascientific. It's completely bogus. But that him and his team and staff would put that out is really alarming. But again, they're putting lives on the line with this kind of stuff. They haven't really shown an interest in caring about this from the jump. They wanted to downplay this, as we've seen from late reporting from Bob Woodward's book. But
Yep.
they don't care. It's people want to say oh, imagine if another country's leader did this, if another dictator did this, and it's just what's happening here? We don't need to draw comparisons to North Korea or China. It's happening here right now.
Yeah.
And this is a talking point that the right likes to draw distinctions or parallels to whenever a Democrat does something oh, this is just North Korea or communist Russia or the USSR. But no, here you go. It's happening right now. You have this absolute kayfabe video that they produced and released yesterday. It's so sensational. The guy's clearly not doing well, as we saw with the zoomed in video. It's a really odd moment. Yeah.
Oh God, and yeah, we could focus on any 3 random words there. I'll restrain myself to just a few. Don't let it dominate you. Don't live in fear or whatever he said. You like we have language restrictions that stop me from expressing what I'm really thinking about Donald Trump right now. My relative who died from this wasn't letting it dominate him. No, he had a fatal illness that killed him. Okay, that's how that works. And the people who wear masks are not letting it dominate them. They're being responsible in protecting their own life and the lives of people around them. That's the scary part. And I don't want to focus too much on it, or I don't need to focus too much on it, because he is going to say some version of this 1,000 times between now and the election, and Fox News will be saying it, as we're going to get to in a little bit. So we'll move on. When he says, I may be immune to it now, okay, so we can have a conversation about the strength of the evidence right now about how antibodies work in regards to coronavirus, and whether you actually develop immunity, and whether it's short-term, it's long-term. That's an interesting conversation for another day. You've got it now, you colossal moron. You have it in your system. Your lungs are filled up with COVID. What do you mean immune? You're breathing it at the camera right now. If we had some sort of lens that made germs visible, it would be clouding the view of your face. You have coronavirus, you colossal fool. Okay, here's the second part. A little bit more of him.
We have the greatest country in the world. We're going back to work. We're going to be out front. As your leader, I had to do that. I knew there's danger to it, but I had to do it. I stood out front. I led. Nobody that's a leader would not do what I did. And I know there's a risk, there's a danger, but that's okay. And now I'm better, and maybe I'm immune. I don't know.
Oh my God. Anyway, okay, so that's enough of that. Jordan, he's now this is not a hypothetical anymore as to whether he'll have a new tone or something after having COVID. No, he's saying, I got over it. Now everybody needs to get back to work. I got over it, so that's proof that you all need to do it. And everything he did that put him at risk of getting it, and he did end up getting it, was just anything any leader would do. Any leader would hold indoor rallies, wouldn't wear a mask, would tell other people not to wear the masks, would mock people for wearing masks. They're presenting all of that as just, that's leadership. There was no other way to act.
Yeah. Just, he got over it, so you should too. Just take your private helicopter to your private ward in the hospital, where you're going to have doctors wait on you hand and foot for free, and give you the best treatment you could possibly get. Everyone should just do that. It's really quite simple. If everyone did that, then I think we could eradicate the virus collectively tomorrow. So get out there, get back to work. Who cares? Who cares about the people who get sick? Who cares about the people who die? This is the right wing mentality. Like the economy first. It's a death cult. At the end of the day, it's about preserving the markets, preserving their investments, preserving their control. They don't care. They don't care if people get sick or die. It's a necessary evil, I guess. We've seen comments from Ron Johnson at the very beginning. It's like, yeah, sure, 3% of the infected patients might die. That's just a sacrifice we have to make. Well, now he has it. Does he still feel that way?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I'm so glad that you pointed that out. Chris Christie said when they were pushing for reopening, some people will just have to die. Well, now Chris Christie has it. Hopefully he's doing well. God only knows. This is a very deadly virus. But yeah, it was all those pastors, initially when it was spreading around saying, we're not going to stop. We got to persevere through this and still have services. And so many of them got sick. It's not working in mysterious ways. It's working in very obvious, predictable ways. Predictable to a rational person who respects science. So one other area where, in theory, Donald Trump could have shown that he had learned something from the experience of his ongoing recovery from COVID would be to change the way that he talks about this a little bit. But he's not interested in doing that. And I mean that very, very literally. It's like the exact same messaging, and we have a great example of it. So he sent out a tweet that has since been kind of redacted by Twitter, but it's still available there because Twitter won't actually get rid of these tweets. They'll just put up a warning. So he tweeted, flu season is coming up. Many people every year, sometimes over 100,000, and despite the vaccine, die from the flu. Random, if you're listening to this on the podcast, random words are capitalized. I don't know why. Are we going to close down our capital country? No. We have learned to live with it, just like we are learning to live with COVID, in most populations, far less lethal. So at the beginning of this, March 9th, back before any of the lockdowns, before anything, I was still shooting in the studio. He tweeted, so last year, 37,000 Americans died from the common flu. It averages between 27,000 and 70,000 per year. Nothing is shut down. Life and the economy go on. At this moment, there are 546 confirmed cases of coronavirus with 22 deaths. Think about that. I'm going to turn that back on you. You think about that. There were 22 deaths then. We've got about 1,000 times as many deaths now, and he's still saying the same thing. I mean, he's artificially inflated how many people supposedly die each year from the flu to sort of make it keep up a bit with COVID. It's not true. 100,000 people don't die every year. That's not even remotely true. 61,000, I think, is the most in the past decade that have died. But Jordan, it's the same exact talking points, actually, the same.
Yeah, and they've learned nothing. They're trying the same type of tactics because they really want to make this seem like it's as insignificant as they can, because they've got an election coming up and he wants to somehow twist what has happened over the past several months into some sort of victory. They are desperate. They are really, really hurting. I don't want to rely on polls because it's very easy to just respond and say, yeah, I'm voting for X candidate. It's much different to wait in line for a few hours and actually cast your ballot. So I don't want to get too confident in the polls, but it is looking like Trump is headed for a loss, hopefully. So they are just, swinging for the fences, trying to do anything they can, and just they are so desperate in this moment. And that means even going back to old, completely bogus talking points about the flu. Maybe the flu will be diminished this year because people are already socially distancing, but forcing things to reopen only guarantees that get worse.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up because there was something we were going to talk about later, but I do want to move it up here really fast. I do want to mention, someone corrected me in the Twitch. My math was bad. We don't have 1,000 times as many deaths. We have 10,000 times as many deaths as we had when you sent that for 10,000 times as many deaths. But it's fine. Don't let it dominate you. Don't let it totally take over your life. So let's talk about this very briefly. I know when he announced that he had gotten COVID, there were some people who I think naturally questioned, can we trust anything they're saying, including something that looks like bad news? Is it possible that this is just an attempt to distract the electorate? I mean, obviously there was the tax story. Nobody cares about that anymore, that he committed tax fraud and doesn't pay taxes apparently. This would be a distraction from that. It would be an October surprise. It could change things up. But I mean, and look, obviously he has it. So, but their attempt to use this to change the conversation, Jordan, does it seem like that would help? Like, is a hyper focus on coronavirus now in the 3 to 4 weeks we have until the election? What do you think about that? Because I know you said we've got the polls, but obviously we don't want complacency and we're not just going to trust any poll, without being critical of it. What do you think about this turn to focusing on coronavirus as supposedly a positive thing for Donald Trump?
Wouldn't be their first mistake. It seems like a series of rash, odd decisions from this campaign. Money. We some friends and I talked about yesterday. Just the money moving out of key states and reinvestments in Florida, with ad buys. It's just like, what, I don't understand. Florida is supposed to be a lock for Trump. Either that is a weird decision or they're doubling down because they really are struggling. We'll see. Forcing this debate seems to be like another odd decision, because it sets him up for these types of conversations where he's going to have to justify everything he's done on this issue and even got it. Turning this into, you can't even talk about it because you didn't have it, like a Survivor narrative. The past 72 hours, their decisions have been really, really bizarre.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the spending because he's putting more money into Florida, which is he has to win Florida. Like, it's not It's not, oh, if he gets Florida, he's good like Bush in 2000. No, he has to win it and then do other things. So he's putting money into Florida. Trump is off the air in Ohio and Iowa, which could mean that he has internal polling that shows that it's so a win for him that he doesn't need it. But that's not what I'm seeing. That seems like surrender. And so think about, let's just talk about 2 states. He's putting money into Florida. Biden is putting money into Texas. It doesn't seem like, I know, don't get complacent, and remember, it's feeling like this election's probably not going to come down to the votes anyway, but I don't know. And I will say, like, if I was Trump, I would want to be talking about literally anything other than the pandemic as a potential third wave starts to ramp up. Him, like, we already know from all the polling, people think he got it because he was irresponsible. Like, maybe there will be some sympathy anyway, but it's not like we feel so bad that he got it despite his best efforts, so now we're more, like we're on his side. That's not happening. More and more people are dying. How could this possibly be a good turn for them? They need to be talking about the economy or whatever, and even then it would just be the stock market. It wouldn't be reflective of actual people's lives, but that would be something at least. But COVID, why would that be the thing? Why would that be the thing?
Yeah.
Anyway,
really,
no, continue.
I feel like they just wasted an opportunity to like garner sympathy. In that immediate moment with his diagnosis and going to the hospital, you saw almost a bipartisan consensus, like, oh, we need to be respectful and mindful. You saw people who deeply detest this guy, and various MSNBC hosts and personalities who don't like him, going out of their way to express their sympathy for him. Various Democratic elected officials, same thing. And then like 48 hours later, he rushes out of the hospital and takes off his mask. Could have milked that for like 4 or 5 days and created this kind of rally around the president effect that we see in polls during times of national tragedy or mourning. Like that could have been, a strategy, but instead it's, hey, I'm going back out there. I'm doubling down. I'm taking off my mask. You're not tough enough if this killed you. Like, yeah. I will never understand this.
So it's like, has there ever been a clear example of insult to injury from the president? So I didn't give a damn if your relatives or friends died. So hundreds of thousands of them have. And now I'm going to imply that they did it because they just didn't have the right stuff. Okay. A lot of people know someone who died from COVID. I can't imagine anyone liked Trump's comment there. Anyway, I'm going to read a couple super chats, and then we're going to run into one more summary video of that entire experience of yesterday that is just mind-boggling. And actually, on that note, Arkeys74 says, it is just mind-boggling. I don't even know exactly what Arkeys is referring to there, but Arkeys is right. It is. Tails says, day 197, it's my birthday. I shall gift Twitch subs. And actually, Tails, I was watching the Twitch chat. Tails did gift subs, and then went to the YouTube channel and super chatted us about it. So that is like a double fisting of being a great supporter of the channel. Thank you. Nate Swearingen says, so when does he get charged with attempted murder via COVID for everyone he knowingly is infecting? Look, I don't know the law any more than I know math, but it sure seems like he willingly infected and exposed a lot of people to that virus. Like those donors of his, those $250,000 donors, Jordan, like, how are they not suing him for that? Like, are you allowed to expose someone to a deadly virus and just get away with it? Is that cool?
Oh man, we saw a suggestion from a Washington Post columnist. They're like, oh, we should have a special like felony for people who willingly expose someone to a virus. And it's like, okay, let's slow our roll on that because that could just be used to disproportionately impact various communities who have certain ailments,
sure,
or at higher rates. This is like, it's been used negatively in the past. I'm not saying you did, but I saw that there was a knee-jerk reaction on that front. I do think that like that is extremely dangerous. Also, those types of people are more litigious than the average person. So I would imagine that if people get infected, there'll be lawsuits against the Trump campaign.
Interesting. Yeah, whether we ever find out about them or if they're settled out of court or, otherwise, who knows? Lord Vader says, why should we have any sympathy for him and his supporters who have 210,000 deaths on their hands, not fruit punch Kool-Aid, but actual blood on their hands? Look, if somebody wants to have sympathy or empathy for them, you're totally free to. I just don't think it's an obligation when these people have spent the last 3 years punching us in the face literally every day and then mocking us for the fact that some of the people they punched died. Okay, I have got a note that there is a tweet from MSNBC that I'm supposed to read. Let's see. A military aide who comes in contact with President Trump has tested positive for the coronavirus. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know from that exactly where the infection happened, but, you know, people are concerned about the Secret Service and all of that. Anyway, thank you for the notice there. Okay, let's see. Brianna Circus says, love this rebellion pack. I'll be promoting it hard for the next 4 weeks. They hit the nail on the head. This isn't a time for the left to go soft. I agree. Thank you for that. Moe's Tube says, didn't realize oxygen was a recent development, a reference to one of Trump's comments about everything that he got is new. Like, none of it can be from a previous administration. They had to come up with all of it. Anyway, and Spencer says, congrats on 500,000, John. Thank you for that. One more. Sean Flynn says, yesterday, Herman Cain, who is dead from COVID, tweeted a video of Trump, who has COVID, saying not to be afraid of COVID. What is happening? I don't know. I don't know. Jordan, do you know what is happening? I don't know what's happening anymore.
I'm clueless.
Okay, now with that, let's do a little summary of that entire episode yesterday. So Trump has made his triumphant return to the White House, and it seems now like the entire thing was designed to produce this video. Okay, so you know, I know if you're on the podcast again, you might be confused and think from the epic music that was a trailer for the next Avengers. But that was a video of a sick old man being driven home from the hospital that he insisted he be discharged from, even though he still has an active infection in his system. It was cool music, I'll give you that. But it was just an old sick man being driven home against his doctor's wishes. What do you think, Jordan? I mean, I don't think anything has ever been more propaganda than this was propaganda.
Oh, yeah, this is unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. I couldn't believe this when I saw it. And this is what I was referring to earlier with kind of the kayfabe video. It's just like super sensational. This is unbelievably fascist. Like, this is just like the monuments, the White House, the pageantry of state, all of this kind of stuff. Like you said, to show a sick guy coming back home, like that is like, it's so over the top. Like it's hilarious. Like, I don't want to laugh at the guy's condition because, you know, it's an unfortunate virus, and it's, you know, you don't want to see more people get sick and die. But like, this video is hilarious because it's just like, it's so over the top.
Yeah, and the fact that, again, he got it because he told doctors to go F themselves month after month after month, refused to do even the most simple precautions against getting it. So he stupidly bumbled into getting it. And now, like, he's Captain America because of that. Like, you know, I hope he gets better. Hope he recovers. And more importantly, I hope that he doesn't spread it to even more people than he already has. But you're not a superhero, bro. You're an old sick guy who got driven home from the hospital. And this is one of the things, I think we talked about this on the show yesterday. It's one of the things about letting Trump become president, that now he gets to make videos like that. Like, I don't know how much that cost us as taxpayers to produce that. Like, why didn't he just drive home in a car? Why did they medevac him? Well, because it's a cooler video. They had to do the helicopter because it's cool. So they did all of that stuff, potentially infecting more people, so that he can make a video that'll get, 30,000 retweets or something like that. Like, as Jordan says, it is both incredibly fascistic, the veneration of military technology and stuff like that, but it's also us that made it. Like, we paid for that. And I don't think I got my money's worth, honestly. I don't.
No. And also it's like setting themselves up to fail. Like they are setting they're coming out really, really hot out of the gate with like, oh, the Trump beat COVID stuff. Like, oh, wow, look at him. Am I immune to it? And now this video, like all of these types of things could backfire because, like as we talked about earlier, your condition kind of varies from day to day, especially over like a couple weeks. This isn't gone. Yeah, sure, he's going to get good care, but like he is old and he has other ailments that is like, disproportionately impacted by this kind of virus. Like I said, a buddy of mine felt fine like 1 week, and then the next week he felt like he was climbing a mountain just going to his mailbox, coughing up blood and stuff. So like there's a lot of other risks that could have adverse reactions or impacts, and they're setting themselves up for failure with this kind of stuff really, really hot out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean that you nailed it. That am I immune? I don't know. Like, God help him if he takes a turn for the worse. And the videos of him, like you mentioned the football one, but there's the one of him like in the WWE tackling someone who has COVID put as their face. Sort of like works on two levels because you should probably stay away from the COVID, but he actually runs to it and tackles it. So it really does work. But that's not, and that was Kelly Loeffler. Like, he's not out of the woods. I think I've said it for 1,000 times. I think he's going to end up being fine, or at least he'll live. But that's not. Don't knock on wood, man. People take a turn for the worse. My relative had good days and had bad days during the treatment, and then eventually passed away as a result of it. Why are you tempting fate? Anyway. Okay, but let's turn to the next angle of this, because Trump is going to do what Trump is going to do, but I do care about what the media does. Donald Trump's battle against COVID, which continues. He seems to think he's done with it, but he's not, is being spun by the media as like game over, we're good now, whether on our dealing with the economy, with the COVID in the economy, or on the election. I was initially going to pull a bunch of video clips of this, but I don't want to subject you to Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson on a day like this. So I will simply use the awesome resource that is Media Matters and show you a little bit of what they've been saying lately. Tucker Carlson says that Trump leaving Walter Reed proves coronavirus isn't quite as scary as they're telling you it is. What does that mean? He's still sick, and hundreds of thousands of people didn't leave the hospital. Like, I get that he gets paid $20 million a year or whatever, and he has a camera pointed at his face, but that's the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. Why? What is the point of that? Like, his viewers who know someone who died of COVID, what are they supposed to be like? Oh, good point. I guess my friend overreacted when they passed away as a result of COVID mangling their lungs and leaving them incapable of processing oxygen. They were really a snowflake about that. I see that now. Jordan, why? Like, what is it just for people who don't know anyone? Is it just for the people who've been totally insulated against this thing?
I mean, maybe it's that he hasn't been directly impacted. Maybe it's that they just, I think Fox also has had a I don't know if it's implicit or, as overt, but they've had a coordinated messaging on this from the beginning. And Media Matters did a great job demonstrating this, like from the start. Oh, hey, this is fine. Don't even worry about it. Oh, hey, it's 10 deaths. Oh, it's 200 deaths. It's fine. We had to protect the market, and just every step of the way, they had a new response. And now, when it finally reaches the president, it's he's fine. Look, it's fine. He got out of the hospital in 2 days. And here's the thing: Tucker knows that is not the case. He is lying. He is lying about this. He knows deep down that Trump's case and Trump's treatment, especially, is completely unique compared to any other person. And he knows that deep down, and he is misleading his viewers, and is one of the most watched cable news shows in the country. That is extremely dangerous because people are going to believe that. People are really impressionable, especially when they get all of their news from TV. Like that is extremely dangerous. And his supporters, Trump supporters and loyalists buy that. Like the fanfare outside the hospital. If you heard the audio clips, people screaming, "I will die for that man."
Yeah.
Buddy, get help, please. I assure you there are more important things in this world to die for. Like that is so alarming to have that kind of like just completely one-sided relationship with a guy who doesn't even care about you. And that Tucker is enabling that and feeling that just shows what a vile, despicable person he is.
Yeah, you know, we didn't end up using that video because I hope that that's a troll, like that's just someone pretending. But whether it is or not, we know that there are millions of Americans that do actually feel that way. That they might not necessarily be willing to die for him, although their attitude toward masks imply that they are. But they're certainly willing to hypothetically kill for him, the way that they talk about a civil war if he doesn't win the election.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was Tucker Carlson. We also have Tucker Carlson saying, "At some point, we're all going to die." Is that how he views like the threat of Muslim extremists coming over the border, or any like literally any other threat? Is his attitude, well, what are you gonna do? We're all gonna die someday. Is that how he views any of those? Oh no, he doesn't view any other threat that way. Just this one. Interesting. And he's finally come full circle, because I remember in the initial month or so of the pandemic, there was that study of Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson, and how Tucker Carlson supposedly was more responsible with the way that he talked about it. He immediately jumped off a cliff into irresponsibility right after that. But one of the things that Sean Hannity said in the first couple of weeks of the lockdown on his radio show was, "What are you going to do? We're all going to die." Well, now 210,000 plus Americans have been reported as dead. And Tucker Carlson, apparently, after all of that, after everything we've been through together, all of these shows, all this news, all that stuff, at some point we're all going to die. That's it. It's just fatalism. They're pretending that it's like brave or alpha or tough or leadership. It is simply fatalistic surrender in the face of something that we know how to defeat, that we have the resources to defeat, but that they just don't actually care to fight, because they think somehow that surrendering to it, dying from it, is better for Donald Trump. A sad country.
Yeah, this messaging is so hollow, because inside Fox, they're practicing social distancing. A lot of them are working from home.
Yeah.
Tucker has been filming from home, or doing the show from home, or remote locations, things like that. They're not living to the same standard that they talk about on the show. They don't have this callous disregard in the office. They're treating it like everyone else should be treating it, like, which is with preventative measures. And it's like, this is an issue of like, it's impacting him. It's inconveniencing him. He can't go to the Palm Steakhouse every night like he likes to.
Mm-hmm.
He can't just travel freely. He can't go on vacations, trout fishing or whatever, things like he likes to do. Even from like the small things, like he's a big fisherman. So he had a segment on his show when he heard there was like litter in one of his favorite fishing spots, and he blamed it on immigrants. And he blamed it on like a marginalized community. It's just like, when things impact him, he cares. And that's why he's like upset about this. He doesn't care if you die as a result. He just wants things to go back to normal for him.
But Skip, what are you doing with that? What are you doing, Skip? Come on. I guess Skip's got to have fun too. That's actually interesting. I didn't know that he was really into fishing. I thought it was like a wink and a nod joke that he'll go on a fishing trip every time it's revealed that one of his employees is a literal Nazi or he's accused of sexual misconduct. I didn't think he was actually going fishing, but apparently he is.
Oh yeah, he actually is. There's even a video of him back in like early 2010s, I think, of him fishing in Central Park. Some bystander just saw him there. I guess they like artificially like put fish in like a pond or a lake in Central Park, and he was fishing there. Like he legitimately is.
I don't mind that.
Yeah.
Assuming you're allowed to, although I wouldn't doubt that he would do it even if you weren't allowed to. But anyway, okay, so he's ridiculous, but let's move on to slightly more ridiculous. Not necessarily all the way to Lou Dobbs' hero worship of Donald Trump, but Sean Hannity compared Donald Trump's COVID infection to Winston Churchill's response to World War II. And I hate every word of that. It's nothing like that. The interesting thing about Winston Churchill's response to World War II is that Winston Churchill responded to World War II. Trump just surrendered to the virus 6 months ago, and that's it. And now he's telling you that you should have a herd mentality. That doesn't scream of Winston Churchill. There's a vague resemblance between the two, but beyond that, the metaphor is weak, Sean. It's really weak.
Yeah, who could forget that that heroic moment when Winston Churchill like quietly told a reporter they're going to downplay the threat of the Nazis, like just like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. We don't want to turn this into a thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to project a positive attitude.
Yeah,
that would be like if the Blitz was going on and there's like one neighborhood that, man, it's getting bombed. It's just really getting bombed. And everyone's like, Winston, don't go in there, Winston, you moron, don't go in there. And he's like, nah, I got this, I'm good. And he walks in there and gets his legs blown off. That would be a little bit like this, like that he's not listening to the advice of the people that know better than he does. God, anyway, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my mic. I'm going to proceed, though. So anyway, look, I summarize this just to say, and we don't know, Lou Dobbs tonight is going to say some insane things about Trump being released. But you should understand that while very few of our fans probably watch much Fox News, they do think, or at least want their old fans to think, that Trump, insisting that he get discharged while he's still actively fighting the COVID infection is like, it's over. It's done. He is a hero on the level of Alexander the Great or whatever. I don't know. We live in very different worlds. That's all I have to say about that. You want to move to someone arguably worse, though, Jordan?
Sure, John.
This is someone that we have not talked about on this show, I don't think, in months, because I genuinely don't get any pleasure out of it, but we're going to here. So Donald Trump got COVID. Joe Biden didn't, arguably because Joe Biden actively tries not to, for instance, by social distancing and by wearing a mask. And he continues to try to remind people of that, for instance, with this video that his campaign put out yesterday. Look that up online. The full video of just Joe Biden putting on the mask has like rock music, and the entire thing makes me feel really uncomfortable. I guess you have to really love Joe Biden for that to be for you. But anyway, I agree with the message. It's a simple one. Wear a mask so you won't shed the virus and you'll protect yourself from getting it. For some people, though, that video, nay, that request that you wear a mask is effeminate, including Tomi Lahren, who tweeted, "Might as well carry a purse with that mask, Joe." And I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate everything. Not about like her. She's a grifting robot. Like she's not a, she doesn't exercise free will. She's just doing whatever she thinks will get her paid. But Jordan, like the fact that Trump got coronavirus and they still think wearing a mask is something that little sissy boys do, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this really goes back to kind of the hyper-masculine stuff that we talked about earlier. The debate had that moment where Trump insulted Biden for wearing a mask. Oh, this guy wears the biggest mask I've ever seen. Immediately proceeds to catch COVID, goes home, takes off the mask, and now you're somehow less of a man, or this is kind of a hyper masculine trope here by Tomi, but like, oh, you got to be carrying a purse if you wear a mask. Like, what is that? Who does that serve? And it's at some point, like, I have to wonder if this is all just an act. She can't be that dumb. Like, to get this far. I mean, she's successfully navigated right-wing media circles and different organizations for years. Like, she's not inept. I think she's just like really, really in the tank for the GOP. Like, if that's your thing, like, whatever. It's not what I would want to do. I want to make an honest living. But like, she's just like clearly a right-wing reactionary who will do and say and whatever to defend the right wing. This is absurd.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe she's that dumb. She's just entirely disingenuous.
I agree. And she is, we are living in Grift Nation. Everybody needs to understand it. There are true believers, like there are on the right. They're crazy, insane, racist, all of that. But like they really do project that they really believe this. But I get from her that she does what all grifters do. She analyzes the landscape, identifies a desire, and just does the thing that those people want her to do. And so what those people want, and those people, by the way, are right-wing white males, they want a woman who will tell them constantly that women are bad, and certainly not as good as men. That's what these men want. They want men that will tell them that women suck, but they especially want women that will tell them that women suck. And so Tomi Lahren is doing the thing that Ann Coulter did for several decades, just saying that women suck, they're awful, they're emotional, they shouldn't be in positions of leadership, they probably shouldn't even be able to vote. That's what she's doing here. She's sort of dipping her toe in the water, but she's saying women are weak. Being like a woman is weak and stupid. And so Joe Biden wearing a mask is weak like a woman's weak. Even though, important reminder, Trump got COVID and Biden didn't. That would seem to be a point in Biden's favor, but apparently not from Tomi Lahren, because Tomi Lahren doesn't care that much about people getting COVID. She cares about having knuckle-dragging white conservative males continue to watch her show, and I could say more. I'm not going to. I'm going to end it right there. There's more to it than just that, but that's what she wants. And the reason that I show this really is not to point out to people that Tomi Lahren is a horrible grifter or whatever. Everybody knows that. It's, will anyone learn from Trump getting COVID? And I guess not if you're getting paid not to. If you're getting paid to tell people that masks are a hoax thought up by China and, Bill Gates, then no, I guess at this point you're probably not going to learn, and you're not going to suddenly become responsible in this way.
Yeah, and this exemplifies this kind of this trope, like, oh, Trump beat COVID, he's tougher than COVID, all that kind of stuff. This is the ultimate distillation of that. Like, not only did he do it, he's a man for not even wearing a mask. He's not even scared of it. Things like that. And she's well connected in right-wing media circles. She works at Fox. So this is just like, it shows just even there. From there to kind of like the fringes, like they're all. This is going to be their talking point now.
Yeah. Really fast. I don't know. I've probably said this on the show before. So I've only had 2 interactions with Tomi Lahren really in my life, maybe tweets or something like that, but I blocked that out. She had me on her show way back, I think on The Blaze, and it was a segment about Hillary Clinton. And all I got from that impression was that, man, she really hates Hillary Clinton. But that was pretty much it. It was a short thing. I've only ever talked to her once in person, and we had a little conversation. And you know what she was like in person?
Was she nice?
Perfectly fine. She's perfectly nice. Totally nice. You know why? Because there were no fans to make one way or the other from being nice to me or not being nice to me. And so I guess she was just nice to me. There was no money on the line. There was no image to carefully craft. There was just a human interaction, and in that way, she was fine. I'm sure if I dug deep, there's a lot of bad stuff there, but she was a perfectly fine person. But this is what grift does to people. You have to craft the persona that gets you paid, even if that persona is objectionably, it's just the worst. It's just the worst. You get paid to be bad. That's a bad system, I think.
Yeah,
God, man,
the media ecosystem is so toxic. Like, I'm sure if there was a camera around, she would be more blunt with you. But like,
totally.
It's she's just putting on a performance in that kind of a situation, Like that's it's just, but it does everyone a disservice when we have that kind of a scenario. Like it started with Crossfire and really took off with Crossfire. Like they're not there to debate. So it's like I don't like to talk to people from other outlets because they're not really looking for an actual conversation about things like this is. What's the point? I don't want, if you want to argue with me, you just kind of like resort to like bad faith attacks. It's a waste of my time. You see this kind of stuff a lot with like YouTube debates. Not really of interest to me. I think there's a bunch of people who like to like debate right wingers and alt-right people on YouTube. It's a waste of time because it's all performance. No one's going to be like, you know what? I changed my mind at the end. It's a waste. It's an absolute waste. It's all for entertainment.
I couldn't agree more. I said that many times on the show. I do think there are people who really do believe that engaging in that will change minds. I know of at least one person who is actually genuine. I think that person is wrong. I don't think it has that effect. 9 out of 10 people who do that, though, whether they're good or bad at it, that's a different thing. And if you just want that entertainment, then fine, watch it. It's, arguably as good as watching a Fast and Furious movie in terms of its effect on the country. But it is just performance. It's brand building. It's arguably clout chasing. That's all it is. Not to say that nobody's ever had their mind changed, but it's mighty rare, and I don't think that's what most people are doing. Like, if you sit down to debate with Ben Shapiro's not honestly trying to make the country better by doing that. That's just not how that works. Anyway, okay, so we have one more story we're going to do. Before we do that, though, I did want to mention on Twitch, I saw a comment from Just Freaking Ortega, who mentioned a story that I really did want to do today and will probably do tomorrow. Jordan, I'm sure you're familiar with this. So there was the ballot harvesting story. Great investigative reporting by Project Veritas. And, oh, what do you know? Oh, they tried to bribe the guy to say that he had been doing ballot harvesting and the entire thing was a complete sham. It's weird how that turned out. No one could have predicted.
It's really good that Tulsi Gabbard ran to PragerU to do a video about it. Really, really good stuff.
Why? How could you? He's lied every single time. Yeah. Like, that football's going to get pulled out. Like, why are you trying to kick it? I don't understand it. I honestly, and I haven't seen anything from Tulsi Gabbard since the news broke that the entire thing was a sham. I hope there's some sort of explanation. And I'm not like, yeah, haha, give us an explanation. No, really, like, why? Why PragerU? PragerU is one of the worst, most disingenuous. I don't get it.
She just don't get it. She's just an opportunist.
Okay. We're going to read a couple super chats, a couple tweets, and then we're going to do our last story, which is very important, and I want to make sure that it stays on people's mentality, or on people's radar. Sorry, I was reading the word mentality as I said that. Stephanie Haynes sent us in a super chat saying, it's weird that COVID was able to jump species and catch not only one, but two Trumps. Also, I find it funny that no one is mentioning Mel's health, that she have a healer on call, a cabinet full of Vicks, Vaporub, and Robitussin. Okay, well, thank you for that. Supposedly, she's doing quite well. And look, she's significantly younger than Donald Trump. She is, after all, his wife. She has to be decades younger. And she looks perfectly healthy, you know, in a regular, like, she doesn't have any obvious comorbidities or anything like that. So I have a feeling she'll be quite fine. Burkinnick says, I had oral surgery this morning, had 2 screws drilled into my bottom jaw. I drove myself to the pharmacy afterwards to fill out my prescription and then drove home. Do I get the epic music backdrop too? You should. You deserve it, Birkenex. Now, the next time I hurt myself, I'm definitely going to like have slow-mo action music as I get on my Scion IQ. It's going to be so cool. Anyway, on Twitch, Talon305 says, hi, John, it's my birthday. Could I please get a shout out? No, but thanks for asking. Happy birthday, Talon. You're the best. Thank you. Udarani says, remember when Trump said he could shoot someone and nothing would happen? Well, he is doing it just with COVID-19, not with a gun. Yeah. He said he could kill us. Lokalani nails it, trying so desperately to be Bill Pullman in Independence Day. Totally. And Bart asks, on that Trump video, is Michael Bay okay? Is he broke and just barely paying the rent? Dude, I'm really concerned for Michael Bay because I think that video was directed by him. Totally. Over on hashtag TDR Live, Jeremiah Lloyd says, this whole election is like the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror short Citizen Kang. Our planet is doomed. Yeah. And Eclectic Miscellaneous says, Trump's appearance yesterday is emblematic of his presidency. Trump's a sick old man who shouldn't be in the White House. To stroke his own ego, he'll sacrifice anyone, even in his closest circle. He doesn't and won't ever give a damn how many hundreds of thousands of people die. He has reminded us of that every single day, over and over and over. Anyway, with that, Jordan, why don't we jump into our last story? One of the laws of the 2020 election is that it is not an election day, it is an election week, if not an election month, and that it is going to be very exciting because while in past elections, the will of the people was what decided the vote, it might not go this way this time. So I want to remind you of a story that we have talked about previously, but that I want to be on your radar so that the people who watch this show aren't like, you know, just so surprised by some of the things that they might try to do after the election. So one, and potentially the greasiest, even more so than trying to get the Supreme Court to shut down the mail-in ballot, count or something like that, would be if Trump loses states and those states decide, no, he actually won, which they technically can sort of do. So the president is not directly elected by the people. The official votes are cast by electors on behalf of the voters in their states. Those states have historically chosen their electors by the popular vote. The Constitution doesn't mandate that, saying only that a state shall appoint its electors, quote, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct. Now, despite that, every state has allowed its voters to make the call in every election since the late 1800s. But in 2000, the Supreme Court held in Bush v. Gore that the states, quote, can take back the power to appoint electors. So the plan that some on the right have begun to tell reporters is that after the national election, the Trump campaign would cry foul about rampant fraud and demand that state legislatures ignore the ballot tabulations and choose their electors directly. If the campaign can sustain doubt or confusion about the ballot count, legislators will feel more and more pressure to take up the responsibility before the December 8th deadline when electors' names are sent to Congress for verification. So there is, according to The Atlantic, there's a Trump campaign legal advisor that said that this effort would be framed as protecting the will of the people. They'd effectively be saying, we can't trust the vote, so we're going to tell you how the people would have voted if it wasn't totally fraudulent, wink, wink, fraudulent. So, Jordan, we have more details. We've covered them on the show before. This is one of the things I'm worried about. Does this strike you as a possibility, or do you think that, sure, technically it could happen, but they would never actually try to do that?
I don't know. And I'll just be honest. I'm worried, but I don't want to veer too much into fear and kind of just like helplessness. They are absolutely trying to suppress the vote, whether that's the decision yesterday to allow the witness requirement for absentee ballots in South Carolina, Trump's deliberate call for people to show up to polling locations and be poll watchers, that kind of stuff. That is designed, it seems to be designed to create conflict at polling locations and mayhem. We're going to see people out there taking it upon themselves to disenfranchise voters, and specifically voters of color. That is alarming. And now this is this kind of bureaucratic bogging down the system with legal challenges, and also now the state by state approach to recreate, it seems, results according to their liking. All of this together is very alarming. What I hope is turnout for the Democrats is so high that it completely nullifies all of this effort. The one way to beat this is with a historic turnout. So I'm fearful, or I'm sorry, I'm a little bit concerned, I'm a little worried, but I don't want to just resort to hopelessness. So I hope people remind themselves that turnout is the way to defeat this.
I think that you're totally right with your diagnosis there. I'm also glad that you mentioned that. I believe it's South Carolina was the witness requirement. Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because, yeah, I sometimes get so focused on, so what are they going to try to do after the election that we can't miss that. No, they're already doing things every day. I mean, Texas decided you're going to have one drop-off location in every county, whether it's, a county with 3.5 people and a dog in it, or one of the largest cities in the country in it. That is obviously designed to make it harder and less safe for people to actually deposit their votes. The South Carolina thing is absolutely insane. One of the worst parts of it is that many people will send their ballots in not knowing that they just won't be counted because of this. And South Carolina, like, it's probably just going to go for Trump anyway, but it could just be really close. And in the end, like, we won't even know how many votes weren't counted. That's the thing. A lot of these efforts, it's not just that they're effective in altering the vote, it's that they're sort of invisible. We know that the process is there. We don't know how many people it actually disenfranchises, which is really scary. And I do agree. Like, if Biden wins Texas, then I don't see how you make the case that you need to override the will of the voters. On the other hand, arguably, and this is getting into maybe rampant speculation, if it is such a wave election that he's winning states that you wouldn't expect that he should, including Texas, do we think that Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson aren't above saying that itself is evidence of fraud, that a Democrat could win a state like Texas that they haven't won in decades?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they're going to try everything they can. They don't care about the democratic process. These people only care about power. So yeah, I could absolutely see that.
Yeah, although regardless of whether that's true or not, your point still stands. The best defense that we have available to us is to vote, to turn out, to get as many people as we can to vote, to get as many votes on our side as possible, to make it as strong a victory as is actually possible. We might, in the end, have to hope that the system is strong enough to actually hold even with that, but that's what we can actually do, and we have plenty of time. It's still four weeks until the election. You can go to vote.org. You can go to 2it.com/vote, find out all the information you need to make sure that you can vote. Those deadlines for a lot of states are getting closer, though, in terms of registration. So you're definitely going to want to do that now. I can't imagine you haven't yet if you watch the show, because I harangue you about it literally every day. But Jordan's 100% right. That's what we can do. So why don't we do that? If something else happens, we'll strategize then. And we'll probably be turning to Jordan for information, because he's involved with an organization that is better suited than pretty much anyone to deal with something like that. But for right now, we're not there yet. So I'm with you, Jordan. Now, that was a lot. Jordan, thank you so much for giving us your time and helping us get through that. It's been a wild bit of time. I hope that at some point things die down a little bit so that we can play some games or something. Wouldn't that be nice?
I hope so too. Yeah, that would be great.
I hope so. Okay, well, until then, where can people follow you?
I'm on Twitter at Jordan Uhl.
Awesome. Everyone should definitely follow Jordan. I would consider it essential tweeting, especially in this time. Jordan, thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks.
And for those of you at home, it looks like a lot of people are thanking Jordan for being on the show. I can see in Twitch right now. Let's read a few of your messages. Yes, to probably, is it Edwin who put this here? Yes, so there's a tweet about the Project Veritas thing. They're definitely going to be talking about in the main show. It just didn't quite make it. We'll probably be talking about it tomorrow when JR is on the show. Let's go through some super chats though. Rob Shively says Trump is the guy that will hide his zombie bite. Totally. That's what a leader would do. Every leader would hide their zombie bite. Let's see. Amelia says CNN says Pentagon top generals now quarantined. I had not seen that. I'm gonna have to look into that. Thank you. Nicole says Florida voting deadline was last night. System was down. Deadline extended to 7 p.m. tonight. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because there were a couple of states where on the final day to register, their system just kind of went down. Maybe because a lot of people were doing it, but all the more reason to not wait until the last day. Storm Templar says Trump doesn't have time to be sick. It horns into his executive time. Totally. Why not just stay in Walter Reed and watch TV, man? That's what you need to do. Recover, watch Cobra Kai or something. Just like have some you time, man. And by you time, I mean, don't make it about us. Don't tweet or anything. Mandy says, I need something positive for my birthday today. Make something up if you have to. Life is so depressing lately. Need some good juju. Love you guys. Mandy, happy birthday. I will say a happy thing. So I've alluded to a couple times on the show, I spent literally the entire weekend online on a program called Tabletop Simulator playing a massive board game called Twilight Imperium 4th Edition with 5 of my friends, or 4 of my friends and my wife. We played all day Saturday, we played all day Sunday, each of us representing an alien species duking it out for galactic supremacy. And we had a ton of fun. And in the end, my wife reigned as Space Empress, winning the game. It was a great experience. It is by no means for everyone, but just it could serve as a reminder that despite the fact that we are still quarantined and still apart from each other, you can play games online and stuff like that. So that was happy for me. I don't know if it's happy for you, but if not, I'll give you another happy birthday, and I hope it's a good one. Danny says, have you watched any of the Canadian news on Trump? It's kind of hilariously brutal with how factual they are and straightforward with their judgments. No, I have not, but I can imagine. Silver Harlow says, don't forget to sacrifice a like to the algorithm gods. That would be great. I know what you're probably thinking. Isn't it a bit late in the stream to like it? I mean, what's the difference? But I don't know how YouTube works. Do you? It probably helps the channel. So if you haven't already hit the like button, feel free to. I think we got to 4,500 yesterday. We're at about 3,000 now. Let's see if we can approach the highs of yesterday when we had the largest simultaneous audience, I believe, on both YouTube and Twitch that we've had so far. Caroline Roberts says, I had it. I didn't let it dominate me. It snuck up and took away my oxygen. He is evil. Well, Caroline, I am very glad to hear that you have recovered. I can't imagine what that must have been like. I see on Twitch, Hollow7 says, John, TI doesn't make relationships or fun. It destroys them. I'm not going to say that there weren't tense moments, but for the most part, very fun. And no tension between my wife and I. We were neighbors on the board, but we had a demilitarized zone, and I didn't have to sleep on the couch, so that was nice. Circle Strat says John played games and didn't stream it. That's true, but you know what I'm actually thinking about doing? Like totally separate from TYT. I might stream a little bit on Twitch, maybe. Probably not games that anybody cares about, but you can follow me at twitch.tv/gamesetjohn. I might not, I don't know. We'll see. I used to do it back in the day, and it was a lot of fun. It was a very small community, but we would meet up and talk and stuff. Most people didn't even pay attention to the game I was playing, nor did they pay attention to me. It was a weird community, but we had fun. Twitch.tv/gamesetjohn. Okay, Jordan Brown says, we don't know if you can get it again, and people who've recovered from COVID have died afterwards from strokes. Totally. You can die from the organ damage that it does. He's so stupid, man. Just like heal. Just heal. Okay, POC Discourse says, okay, you may not agree, but Star Trek said this best. Spock, Jim, they'll die. Kirk, let them die. This is a progressive, honest message. I don't know that episode. That sounds rough, though. Brianna Circus says, this Trumper yelled during his drive-by that he would die for Trump and that he loves him. Maybe he should swap with the Secret Service. I just don't want people to feel that way. I love Bernie. I'm not dying for Bernie anytime soon. AOC maybe, like we can bargain or whatever, but I'm not dying for most people. Okay, let's see. Mr. Blue Sky says, no king or queen of England conducted themselves so recklessly. What's the point if this is where it's at? Yeah. Okay, Joel Hunt says he has to project superior genes in order to retain his following of white supremacists. Yeah, I get that, but like, you still have to be able to actually breathe. He's saying he's going to debate Biden next week. He's still going to be actively infected potentially at that point. Oh, man. Magic and Moonbeam says, wish I could just sub to TDR rather than TYT. You're the best. Hey, I appreciate that. But TYT is awesome. And I'm on it a lot. Hey, I'm TYT. You're TYT. And no, you have to subscribe to everybody. Mixiao Donovan says, keep it up. Thank you. May Money into Building says, does the purse help keep the corona off of him? That's a reference to Tomi Laharen's thing. All right, then, keep the purse, Joe. Cringy news today. Can Kamala go straight up Oakland tomorrow? That would help just a bit. Got my hubby to subscribe. Well, thank you. I don't know what's going to happen with that VP debate. I am going to be doing live coverage, I believe. Do we have info about that? It's not available in the thing, but we will be doing live reactions to it. I just, I hope nobody else gets COVID. And I think that it is likely that Kamala Harris, who I obviously disagree with on a number of issues, is probably going to do pretty well against him, if I had to guess. Ardessa says, has anyone said how Barron is doing? As far as I know, all of the other members of the Trump family are totally fine. Artana says, which faction did she play? I think asking about my wife in Twilight Imperium 4th edition. So she was the Tessarl tribes, I think they're called. They're like the goblins in space, a little bit like Gollum, actually. And I was the noble space turtles, the Excha kingdom. And I did not do very well. There was actually one point in the game where I didn't have a single spaceship, which is not a good sign. Anyway, on Twitch, Progressive Canuck says Star Trek 6, bro. Okay, well, I've only seen 4 and a little bit of 1, I think, of those movies, of the original, team. Okay, Sexy Melly B says, well, I haven't had COVID. I was in the COVID wing of the ER when I was rushed there via ambulance. I heard firsthand the suffering. I heard people being told to say goodbye. That experience will never leave me ever. Jesus. Thank you for letting us know that. Snesley Wipe says, that video needs that classic one man Hollywood voiceover. Yeah, one man decided to brave COVID and unfortunately suffered lung damage for the rest of his life. Okay, Tom Zawaki says, hashtag TDR Live, 3,000 likes and no pets. I'm calling for a revolt by the Dragon Squad against John Iadarola for ignoring the will of the people. Well, look, I'm looking around and I don't see any pets, but what I do know we have on Twitter is an awesome bunch of Dragon Squatters who have adorable pets and can tweet those out with hashtag TDR Live, and that will be at least something. We'll see some adorable puppers and cats and fish and birds, and I think we could all use that. for what this week is going to be like. Anyway, with that said, I've got to go do an interview. Be sure to check the channel later for those because they're not live. I had a great talk yesterday with an author about COVID and about the Supreme Court. It was great. You're not going to want to miss those. Tomorrow, J.R. Jackson is going to join me. That is going to be something, and it is VP debate day. So hold on to your butts. Wednesday is going to be a big news Wednesday as always. And until then, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. And I'll see you soon.